Hello everyone and welcome back to the Model Railway series. In this video we're going to carry out a post-exhibition debrief on Friday Bridge and also show off my latest goodies from Rapido Trains. So let's start with Friday Bridge and its first exhibition outing, which I have to say, overall I'd call it a success. Not everything went to plan, but it's a valuable learning experience, and the first thing I learned was that I shouldn't exhibit alone. My attention span isn't limitless, and even with a 1 day, 6 hour show, I wasn't able to run this layout for the entire show on my own, and plans for it to be operated as work in Inglenook fell out of favour for a few reasons, which we'll cover in a few seconds. First, I want to talk, though, about the scenery as it is now. I haven't shown the layout before with the bushes and trees in place, which overall I was very pleased with the result. Gives off exactly the atmosphere I was looking for, of a rural end of the line, no platforms or buildings in sight, just a quiet freight terminus where goods can be unloaded either directly onto the back of a truck or onto the gravel track beside for later collection. There are a few detailing bits I've wanted to do, but unfortunately I just couldn't get them done before the layout. I had to go to the show. But anyway, let's move on to the issues. Firstly, the points weren't quite as reliable as I would have hoped, with hastily wired up feeds on the switch rails eventually going dry and failing. Secondly, I was using a couple of cheap Bachmann wagons that came with a junior starter set, and the chassis actually spread apart, meaning the wheels dropped and no longer rotated freely, meaning they had to be taken out of use, which is why the Inglenook plan also went, as there was no longer enough wagons to operate it. Also, I should have been operating it from the front, but due to last minute changes because of other operators and exhibitors taking up more space than they requested and were allocated, I was squeezed into a spot that didn't quite facilitate this. And it also meant that I couldn't use a shunting plank that attaches to the end and allows me to run trains off scene, which is probably why you can see a Pokemon card taped over the hole in the back scene. So here you see the shunting plank that I mentioned with our 2 layers of foam on top of the rail. And that just clips onto the end of the layout. In fact, I was squeezing so much that it kept being bashed from both sides, which should give you an idea of how much or how little space there was. If I take this layout out again, it's going to grow an imaginary foot at each end just to be sure. And another problem I had was that my DCC controller was dead upon arrival. Worked a few weeks before the show, and I never thought to try it again the day before I left. Just tried the DC, and it was working. But it meant that some of my locomotives weren't able to be used, and also that in the new year I need to find a reliable, inexpensive DCC controller because I'm done with Bachmann's easy command systems. That's the second one that has died on me, and even if they were second hand when I purchased them, I'd say they're probably costing me about £15 an hour for all the use I've had out of them. Which, you know, that's a considerable amount of money when you think about it. And it should be lasting a bit longer than that. So moving on, let's talk about my new purchases. The first of which is a new Tipfield Thunderbolt Deluxe pack from Rapido, which due to the aforementioned demise of my DCC controller, I haven't been able to take advantage of all the cool sound options that come with it. I can confirm it runs well on DCC and the basic sounds are great, albeit a bit too loud for my liking when running in for half an hour each way. But getting it out of the box is a bit tricky, as you can see here. You have to sort of give it a wiggle and a jiggle and prod and a poke. But when you do get it out, finally, you are presented with the owner's manual, which is well worth a read. Definitely recommend reading that. The Tipfield and Mallingford Railway Certificate of Authenticity. give you a better look there. The accompanying book, which is a good read in itself and a unique addition to the collection. Definitely worthwhile adding to the collection, I thought. And the only thing I would say is I'm surprised it doesn't come with a DVD of the film. But considering that I already own both a DVD and a Blu-ray copy, it's no great loss to me. So anyway, tilting it up, inside you'll find 3 inner cases containing the Thunderbolt logo, which I'll explain why it isn't there in a second. You have Dan's house on the incorrect Laureate wagon, which I only learned from some friends recently. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known the difference. And I'm sure most of you wouldn't either. And finally, once I bring those into the shot a bit better, we have the towed brake van. Now, in the accompanying detail pack, we have 2 chimneys for Dan's house, 1 upright and 1 folded down for going under the bridges, as you'd seen in the film. Plus, you get some covers for the tiny bolts that secure the connecting rods on the loco itself. And talking of the loco itself, let's shift some stuff out of the way and bring it in so we can have a look, if the poor lighting will let us. Which unfortunately, a combination of winter fast approaching, taking all the natural light, and me having lent my spotlight to a friend, I'm left with just the light on the layout and my regular living room lights, which give off a rather orange glow and aren't great for recording in. Anyway, the reason this is already out of its packaging is that I've had it running as previously mentioned. But under this plate, there is 6-pin decoder. No, there isn't. There's a 6-pin connector, which is a push fit together and provides power to the decoder. Real faff to align it and push them together. Not helped by one of my pins being slightly bent from the factory, and even after straightening, I ended up breaking off the chimney during connection, which is why it's got a slight rearward tilt to it. And because of this, I have no desire to ever take them apart again just to put it in the packaging and risk the same problem whenever I want to run it. These models are so delicate that I'm glad I'm not requiring many other pieces of rolling stock in the future in order to represent the Wisbeach and Upwell tramway. Because I feel models are becoming too delicate in their quest to be perfect representations of the real thing. I'm almost too scared to run these newer models. Anyway, moving on, we have 3 figures that go with the set, exclusive to this deluxe pack, which I'll try and separate so you can get a better look. Put those over there, and then we have Dan's house, which you can remove the top off to expose the detail inside, but considering the fragility of these models, I don't want to break it on camera. We'll have to leave that for another time, I think. But, you know, it looks great from the outside. Just put that over there. And then next we have the towed brake van, which was the first of these to actually be available. And roof simply comes off, which you may have seen before, and you have the interior detail, or at least if I can get the lighting to allow us to show that. Yeah. Tell you what, let's place it on the layout, where I know there's plenty of light. And then we'll pop up and take a look inside. We go over the top. There you go. You can see all this detail inside, and it's wonderful, even if no one's ever going to see it in use. I have to say though, I'm surprised by how little these pieces of rolling stock weigh. It's a good job they won't be pulled in a long rake, or I can see derailments being a common thing. I may well have to actually add some weight in the future to these models. It's the one thing I'm really not so happy about. Flick the switch over there in case they roll down. But anyway, let's move the Thunderbolt to join its rolling stock so you can get a view of them all together under the better lighting. And even without the camera focusing perfectly, you can see what a charming little set this makes. So much better than Hornby's offering from a decade or so ago, where it mixed these with the incorrect loco. And whilst we're here, we can take a closer look at the trees, which in this case, the large one is a Woodland Scenics model, which I have to say, the poplar trees from Hecky are a bit better in my view. Not to mention them being cheaper, costing about £7 more for 7 of those poplars versus 2 of the large Woodland Scenic trees. So anyway, moving on to my next purchase, which is also from Rapido Trains. It's the Tipfield Thunderbolt buffet car. This again is another very tight box. But once you get inside, after teasing the inner clamshell out of the cardboard exterior, which is a bit tricky, and there we go. You can first see the owner's manual in there, which I have had a read through, and you get a nice bag of detailed parts inside, which includes hoses and the brake cylinders, which are detached because of the NEM pockets for the couplings being in the way and preventing them from being attached, which again goes back to the amount of small detail on this, probably going a bit too far in my view. Anyway, trying to be as gentle as possible with this model. There is some great underframe detail on it, which if I can get some light to show and the camera to focus in on it. Maybe if I bring it over here, no. Let's try zooming in. Oh, yeah, we can see the plastic, all right. Let's take the camera off the stand for a second. And bring it right in. So there you go. There is that detail, which I think you can make some of it out now. Although, of course, when it's on the layout, most of it's going to be hidden away anyway. You're not going to see it. So, whilst I appreciate it being there, in everyday use, is it really going to make that much difference? So the end veranda detail is very fine on this though. And it even has these folding corridor connections, which would be in the down position if or when you have a rake of these, which I do, look. I pre-ordered a pair of these when they were first announced. However, about 3 weeks later, the J70 tram packs were also announced, and having paid a deposit, I decided to go ahead and keep them both, meaning that sometime in the next couple of months, I will own 4 bogie coaches, even though there were only 2 that existed in real life. Now, I did think of repainting one of these into the maroon livery similar to the one at North Norfolk Railway, and running it with my J15. However, I would be willing to sell one of these for the same price that I paid originally. I don't need to get rid of it, I'll be honest there. Hence, the price is non-negotiable. But I'm not going to try and fleece anyone. If someone wants it, if they pay me what I paid, I'm happy with that. And if someone's missed out and they need one, they can contact me through the comment section on here, on Discord, or through possibly the Steam forums. I use the same username everywhere, and we can arrange a purchase if someone really needs it. But I am very happy with these coaches, though, and I cannot wait to have the Great Eastern Railway Teak Pack, which I'm hoping will match the Hatton's Genesis coaches that were also on pre-order. And then that's going to complete my rolling stock purchases for the foreseeable future. But anyway, with that said, we've come to the end of another video, and if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I may not be making videos as often as I used to. Most of the videos moving forward will be either model railway related or content on the full size thing. Gaming videos are going to be restricted to major updates or new releases that I want to share with you all. And I do appreciate you all sticking around. So if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up is always welcome. And with that said, I guess I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.